You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to the Radiance Films Podcast, a show dedicated to all things Radiance Films. I am your host, Adam Lundy, and today I'm joined by a special guest. It is content creator Sam Dunkley. Hello, Sam.
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much for having me on the show. When it was first announced, I was very excited that this uh, new label, Radiance Films, is getting some love in the podcast world. And yeah, so far it's been a great journey. We've had some great guests on, and I'm privileged to be here. So thanks for having me.
Oh, it's not a worry at all. It's the pleasure is all mine. I just love that there's so many people out there who just want to come in and talk about these films as much as I did. That's why I started the podcast, really, just because I wanted to just meet with like-minded people who wanted to talk about these films that I've been loving. So it's great that there's been so much love from the community and from other content creators wanting to get involved as well. Speaking of, just in case those people listening may not be familiar with you, do you want to just give an introduction to yourself, who you are, what you do, etc.?
Yeah, sure. So I have a YouTube channel called Film Blogger Sam. I cover physical media and film on there. I have a podcast. It's been a bit of hiatus called Let's Watch Two, which is like a film pairing podcast. And I recently just started doing Blu-ray reviews on a blog on my website for physical media. And yeah, so all my social handles are basically Film Blogger Sam, apart from my podcast website, which is Let's Watch Two. So yeah, that's me. I just love talking about film and physical media with people, and it's just kind of my social life, really. So when any opportunity I get to do it, I jump on it. So
Awesome. I'll just put all the links in the description anyway, so if anyone's interested in checking out Sam's stuff, just hop down to the description. You can find all the links and such to there. Um, what we're going to be covering today is a little bit different. Up until now, every time I've done like an announcement reaction episode, I've always been pairing the previous month's films with that to kind of do a reaction and a discussion episode. It's going to be a little bit different this week, um, mainly because I still haven't received half of my October titles,
mhm.
which is very annoying, but it is what it is. Apparently they've shipped, so hopefully next week. I've received I can't pronounce it, DA, Gothic, the ghost, the Japanese ghost stories.
The Japanese ghost films, yeah.
I've received those, got those last week. I've watched the first two, they were good. I obviously I don't know if this really counts as an October release because it was originally supposed to come out in September, but A Quiet Place in the Country, I've had that for a while now, and I've watched that a while ago, which was good too. So obviously looking forward to getting in the rest of them. So I'm hoping to kind of come back maybe in a couple of weeks, to do like a proper react or a proper discussion episode about those films. I have a guest lined up. I just need to obviously get the dates sorted for when, but obviously I can't do that when I don't have the film. So apologies listeners if you're tuning in to hear me talk about Hakusan. Not going to happen on this episode, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to get an episode out. So today we're going to be doing a reaction to the releases that just happened this week. So we're recording this on Saturday, the 9th of November, and the announcements were on Wednesday. So we've had a few days to marinate on them.
Mhm.
So we're going to be going through and reacting to those, talk about each release, and then afterwards we're going to maybe make this a hybrid episode, make it a vault episode as well. Sam has picked out one of his favorite films from the back catalog, and that we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about. So it's going to be an announcement and vault hybrid episode this week, so something a little bit different. Um, but let's jump in. So I'm just going to start from like what I see on the website here. I literally have it open in front of me. I'm just going to kind of start from the right over to the left. So first off, we have the director that I'll probably be most familiar with Radiance fans because they've released a couple of his films now. It's a film called Hokuriku Proxy War, and it is a Kenji Fukasaku film. Obviously, very well known for Radiance fans and just fans of Yakuza films, he's probably the godfather of the Yakuza crime genre. The synopsis for this film reads as follows. So, a loose cannon gangster Kawada rebels when his two-timing boss forms an alliance with a major crime syndicate. The syndicate's main rival sees Kawada as their perfect proxy, but his furious temper quickly rubs him the wrong way, leaving Kawada to face overwhelming forces. This was apparently his final true Yakuza film. So this is kind of like a swan song, I guess, for him. Now, I've never seen this film. I don't know if you have, Sam, or if you'd heard of it before.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've not seen it. I've since I got into collecting Blu-rays, I'm a bit of a snob in which I
Mm.
won't generally buy DVDs anymore of films. So obviously this is the world Blu-ray premiere, so this wasn't one I was like hankering for as such, but like I'm quite a big fan of um Fukasaku's work. Yeah, he obviously the godfather of the Yakuza, sort of the crime film and stuff, and particularly in the 70s. And then he had a huge gap of films that I've not seen, particularly during the 80s and stuff. He's probably most famous for to like non-Yakuza fans for oh my goodness, what's the film called? Battle Royale, of course.
Oh, of
Um,
course, yeah.
yeah, so that's probably his most famous film. I think I'd like to think so. That's his most famous film. But yeah,
I would
this
say
is
so.
very
Yeah.
yeah, this is very much up my street. I'm a big fan of the other couple of releases that Radiance have put out of Fukasaku's work. The first one was Yakuza Graveyard. That was one of the first releases, wasn't it?
It was very early. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it was
One of the
very early
first
anyway.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the second rollout of discs. And yeah, so I know nothing about it. I know some of the actors in it because they pop up in a lot of these Japanese genre films.
Mhm.
But other than that, I'm excited it's a 4K restoration, so it should look pretty sweet. And other than that, I'll get it. And from the synopsis thing, it looks really interesting because it says it's like set in a snowy. It's like a snow-based one, right?
Yeah,
Something like that. Shit.
which is
It's
always
not typical.
no, it's not. And I'm a bit of a sucker for when a genre film goes to the snow. I'm a bit of a sucker for that. Like and I've said this on this podcast and on other podcasts as well. I'm not the biggest Yakuza film guy.
Okay.
I kind of struggle a little bit with them, especially the Fukasaku ones, because his style is just so breakneck.
Oh, that's
I
what I love about it. Yeah,
see.
it's
I
very
just struggle to.
frenetic.
Yeah,
That's fair. That's fair.
I struggle to keep up. Like I remember when the first time I watched was it Battles. I always mix up the title list. Battles Without Honor and
Without
Humanity.
on humanity, yeah.
Without, yeah. I remember the first time I watched it a few years ago, and I went on Daily by Film afterwards just to kind of talk about the fact that I'd seen it, and I was like, it's like somebody put The Godfather on times 3 speed. Um,
Yeah.
I found it very hard to follow. Like I understand why people love it. It's one of these things where like I can I can hold my hands up and say I know I'm the bad guy here.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm just not a big fan of his style, and I haven't seen a lot of Yakuza films that weren't made by him. The only real sort of exclusion to that would be the Taikedo films that Radiance have released, which I actually have liked, especially by A Man's Face Shall You Know Him, for example. So perhaps it is more of a style issue than a genre issue.
I'd
Um,
say that's fair. Yeah, it is a very, yeah, you said it's breakneck. Just the editing and the pacing of everything. And if you're not like 100% locked in or look away from the screen for a little bit, you can like miss so much
100%.
information. And yeah, there are some of the Fukasaku films that I have seen that I enjoyed on the first viewing, but it wasn't until I rewatched them that I like really loved them because I needed that second viewing to help me understand like the plot points and stuff and who was who because it can get very confusing like knowing who the characters are supposed to be sometimes.
Yeah.
So I completely sympathize with your view on some of these films that you've seen before. And sometimes when you get that, you're not exactly buzzed to then like go rewatch or something. Um, but a rewatch generally can like iron out like your misunderstandings or your confusion on some of the points. But no, I completely see where you're coming from. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like I need to watch one in a cinema, and I feel like I would probably get it then. Because it's like you say, like if I'm sitting at home watching it and, you know, a car drives by or there's a sound upstairs and I look away from the screen for 5 seconds and I'm like, fuck, I've lost everything.
yep, yep,
It's game
I get that.
over. So I feel like if I watched it in a cinema, especially on my own, I would be locked in and I might get it. But I'm certainly interested in this one because of the snow aspect. Like I
Hmm.
said, I love when a genre film goes to the snow. So I'm very, very intrigued by that. And I'll always go into everything with an open mind. Even if something hasn't exactly hit for me once. I'll always go into something with an open mind, for the
Sure.
most part at least.
Hmm.
Um, just having a quick poke at the special features, see if there's anything super interesting. Um, Looks like an interview with an actress, interview with the screenwriter.
Yeah, there's one here that looks
Uh,
really interesting because I didn't realize that this is based on a true murder case. So
hmm.
there's an interview with a historian on the real life Proxy War murder case. So that could be interesting to put some context into exactly what's playing out on screen and how true to the real story it is and stuff.
For sure.
I know nothing about this murder case, but I'm going to learn about it when I get the disc and watch the special features. So I'm learning a bit about history as well here. So that's always a plus for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's always great getting that kind of contextual information. I feel like context can improve a film, not a film, but improve one's appreciation for a film so much.
Yeah. Hmm.
When you actually kind of understand why the filmmakers have made a specific choice or why things are showing a certain way in the film, it can really make or break one's appreciation. So yeah, anything that adds context is always welcome on my Blu-ray purchases. Um, so the next film then after that is going to be the Dominic Graff film called Cat, which again to read the synopsis directly from the website. Two robbers hold up a bank and its employees demanding 3 million marks for their ransom. The police plot to storm the bank but are unaware the robbers have an accomplice on the outside anticipating their every move. Um, so this was a film again I hadn't heard of, and to be honest, I don't even think I've heard of the filmmaker either, Dominic Graff. I don't
Me
know if
neither.
this was something not on your radar either. Okay, which is cool. I always like when when stuff happens like this, where you're just introduced to somebody you just like never even heard of.
Hmm.
It opens your eyes so much. Um, I can't remember if it was this release or if it was something else. If somebody I'd seen maybe somebody had likened this to like a Michael Mann film. Um,
From the description, it sounds like it's like a precursor to those sorts of heist movies,
yeah,
or like Heat, yeah, like Heat or something. Maybe I'm not sure, but it's intriguing. As I said, never heard of the director or this film, so I'm loving for Radiance for putting it on my radar. So
yeah. Well, luckily we'll get a good chance to learn a lot about the director because he has an interview on the disc, and he also does a select scene commentary. So we will get to learn quite a lot about the director, because he'll
it's a
be telling us all about
62-minute interview. That's like
62
a
minute interview.
feature
Yeah.
feature length interview.
Exactly, yeah. And then they also sit down with the screenwriter and the producer. So, yeah, for those like us who were completely unaware of this film's existence, the special features should clear everything up, it seems. We'll learn a lot about it. Um, Looking like, oh yeah, and actually, yeah, the transfer was even overseen by the director as well. So this was really a this release is a labor of love from the director as well by the looks of things. So that's very cool also to see that because obviously a lot of the films that Radiance put out are from like the 60s and the 70s and maybe the filmmakers aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so it's cool when they get an opportunity like this to actually work with the filmmaker. As obviously, you do see a lot of the kind of more established companies do this. Like Criterion, for example, will sometimes work with the filmmakers to, when they're doing transfers and remasters and stuff like that. So it's cool to
Yeah,
see Radiance get involved with this when they had an opportunity to do so. Because at least we know we're getting a true depiction of the film that is approved by the filmmaker. So there can be no worries about changes made during the grading or the transferring or anything like that. We know that this is a true representation of what the director wants us to see when he watches his movie, which is great.
totally agree.
Then the next one here is one of the double feature releases. So this is the second month in a row we're getting like a double feature release, which I think is cool. And this is probably the set of films that I'm most excited for this, for February.
Me
Um,
too.
so we have Nomad and My Heart Is That Eternal Rose, which are both made by Patrick Tam. So to kind of again read the description here for Nomad, where is it? Sorry, in Nomad, two couples, equal parts rich and working class, bond and experience the frolics of youth. The arrival of a Red Army deserter brings violence and disruption, prompting incredible plot twists and inspired set pieces. And then in My Heart Is That Eternal Rose finds Tam in more familiar heroic bloodshed genre. A young couple are torn apart by a botched triad job that forces Rick to relocate to the Philippines and Lap to become a gangster's moll. 6 years later, they meet again, but their reunion only reignites the danger that drove them apart. Um, so funnily enough, I had never heard of Patrick Tam. Um, and it feels like I should because I love Wong Kar-wai.
Yeah,
He's one of my favorite filmmakers. And to now read about this guy who was apparently a mentor to Wong Kar-wai. Um, one of the films was shot by Christopher Doyle, who of course works with
yeah.
Wong Kar-wai pretty
Hmm.
exclusively. The cast in this in these films feature Tony
Yeah,
Leung, Leslie
exactly.
Cheung.
Yep.
I feel like an idiot for have never heard of these films or this filmmaker, and I feel like it's probably my own ignorance for the most part, well, for some part of it at least, anyway. Because My Heart Is That Eternal Rose, I found out this week it's actually streaming on the Criterion channel,
Oh,
which
nice.
I luckily have a subscription to. So I could have watched this like literally any time, but I just never came across it, and I'd never heard of it. But I'm so excited to watch these films, because they just feature so many actors that I love, cinematographers that I respect, and then I want to know more, about Patrick Tam and what this guy who essentially set the stage for what Wong Kar-wai would then become. I really want to see how this style started before Wong Kar-wai kind of took it over.
Yeah. Same. I feel a bit silly. I'm not like super familiar because I've not seen any of the Patrick Tam's films, but I've read a lot about Wong Kar-wai, so I knew that this filmmaker had edited Days of Being Wild, um, and he's started in television, I think,
Okay.
something like that. Oh, and I see that this release also has two television episodes as extra features. Where am I looking? Yeah, so two episodes of crime series CID, directed by Tam. So this was like a number of years before he even started making feature films. So
Hmm.
that's an interesting thing to have like full length television episodes on a disc
Yeah,
for a film release. Like there
very
really is
unique.
giving shining a huge like spotlight on this director to just, like say this is where he began and this is sort of like these are sort of early but or middle of his career sort of thing just by looking at his thing. Yeah, very early. Nomad is 82. That's his third feature, and then My Heart Is That Eternal Rose is 89. So that's sort of like slap bang in the middle of his filmography. Um, so yeah, yeah. Echo everything that you said. Very intrigued. It's all you need to do. Like sometimes with like copy, like when you're trying to sell a film, it's just like name drop like loads of people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
It's kind of it's quite an easy way to sell something, especially when you got the talent connected to it. You just like drop Wong Kar-wai's name, and you're like, oh, this guy's connected to Wong Kar-wai. There's probably a lot of talent there, just by association. This
Hmm.
person's going to have a lot of talent. So, yeah, I'm gonna say I've never heard anyone talk about this director or these films. So, yeah, this release is going to be putting them on a lot of more people's radars. So yeah, like you, this is the release I'm really excited about, and it's quite reasonably priced as well for a double feature. Because if you buy two films, that would be £36 brand new.
Yeah.
£18 each. So you're getting a huge discount getting two feature length films plus two episodes of television. Um, I don't know how long they are. They might be 30 minutes or they might be an hour. I don't know.
They're
But
49 minutes each, apparently.
wow, that's like a lot of
It's basically a
content.
whole
And
extra
then
film.
yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. And then with all the extra the special features and stuff, like this is yeah, that's my priority for getting that month. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, very excited.
Yeah. And the special features, apart from the episodes, are quite loaded as well. There's an interview with the king of Asian cinema scholar discussion, Tony Raines.
Yeah.
We have an interview with assistant director Stanley Kwan, he was the assistant director for sorry, he was the interview was on Nomad, and then also interview with the Nomad producer Dennis Yu. And then there's also a visual essay on Patrick Tam and the Hong Kong New Wave by David Desser, which I love a visual essay. Those are my favorite types of special features. So I'm looking forward to seeing that just because, with being a huge Wong Kar-wai fan, I don't actually know, or at least I haven't sought out a ton of other Hong Kong New Wave filmmakers. So this could almost be a something to ignite me to kind of branch out beyond Wong Kar-wai and look at his contemporaries and people he was working at or working with, I should say, to just to see what else was being made at this time.
Yep, 100%. Agree.
Right. And then the last release for February, so it's a pretty stacked February, 5 films in total, technically, um, is another film which I'd never heard of, by another filmmaker that I'd never heard of, um, which is the film is called What Happened Was. It's by a guy called Tom Noonan,
hmm
which I'm sure there's probably people out there going, "How has Adam not heard of Tom Noonan?" But I
Uh,
have.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I didn't know he was a filmmaker, but he's been quite a lot of stuff, Tom Noonan. I mean, I have known of him since I was a kid because he plays the Ripper in The Last Action Hero. Don't know if you've seen that Schwarzenegger film.
I definitely have when I was a kid. I feel like I need to look at his
Y-
face now just to see.
Yeah, you might recognize his face if you looked at him,
He
but
does have one of those faces, doesn't he? I feel
he's
like I
been
do
in a lot
recognize
of
him.
it. Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff, but I had no idea he directed a film, and obviously he stars in this film as well. So, yeah,
Oh, he's the old guy in the House of the Devil. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do
hmm
100% know who he is. I'm just gonna have a look at his other filmography, acting credits.
Oh yeah, he
Manhunter,
was in Manhunter. Yeah, of course,
RoboCop
that's probably
2.
one of his most famous roles.
Oh, he was in Heat. Uh,
Mhm.
Eight-Legged Freaks. Oh, he was uncredited though. Cynic Dutch, New York. Okay. Yeah, he's been in a lot. I'm looking at even at his TV credits. He's
Mm.
been in a lot. I'm just waiting for him to show up in a TV show that I watch repeated. No, I've never seen any of these. Well, I don't really watch these shows. I obviously know them. Yeah, he's been in a lot. So, but yeah, I never knew he made a film. So I'm in the same boat with you there.
Mm.
Um, so the synopsis for this one is Jackie and Michael are co-workers at a New York law firm who, after months of flirtation, agree to meet for a first date at Jackie's apartment. Their initially charged and playful interactions eventually evolve into a long, dark night of the soul as the two would-be lovers get to know each other properly for the first time and discover that all may not be as it seems. So there's this again. So like I said, another film that I hadn't heard of. I'm certainly intrigued by it. I'm a big fan of kind of mumblecore. I don't know if you're familiar with that subgenre of
Yeah,
film.
yeah. I'm aware of that. Yeah, very obviously. It seems low budget because, as far as I can tell, most of the film's going to take place in an apartment.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the course of one evening where they're just like opening up to each other. So, the film's going to basically hinge on the dialogue and their performances. I'm going to imagine, because it seems like it could be some sort of like it's not, but like an adapted stage play or something like that. That's what the vibe I'm getting from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the sort of, as you said, mumblecore-ish, independent features and stuff. They're usually quite interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Like you said, it's With it being a film I hadn't heard of by, featuring people that I didn't really know. Obviously, I now know Tom Noonan is. But again, it's something that piques my interest. Like I'm a big fan of like, the Before trilogy, for example. I know that's technically not mumblecore because it's not low
Mm.
budget or anything. But if it's anything like the idea of just two people, sitting down and just kind of bearing their soul. To some people may not be very interesting cinema, but I think I think if
Mm.
you can make an interesting film of two people sitting in a room bearing their soul, then you are an incredibly talented filmmaker.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot harder to do than what it may seem on face value. Because you have to be a very talented filmmaker and a screenwriter to make and an actor. Everyone involved needs to be really at the top of their game to make something as trivial as two people sitting in a room getting to know each other actually interesting and cinematic. So I'll be really intrigued to see how Tom Noonan does this, because obviously there's different, other directors approach this in kind of different ways, in terms of how they film it and shot composition and, just more technical stuff. So I'll be interested to see how this film, approaches the technical limitations, I guess, of just having everything all in one room with two actors.
Yeah.
Um, the special features on this again also feature an interview with Tom Noonan and the producer Scott McCauley. It does look like it was an archival one because it's from 2021. Same with Karen Sellis, who plays the female lead. That interview is also from 2021, so it looks like it's archival, which leads me to believe this was probably released. Oh yeah, look, the restoration was done by Oscilloscope Films, so
Yeah.
they're a US label. So I'm sure this is probably something that Radiance have licensed from them in terms of the special features and stuff, so that would make sense. They do have a new interview filmed with critic Charles Bramesco. Um, so it's relatively light, I guess, on the special features, but I suppose how many special features can you do about a film where two people are sitting in a room talking?
Yeah.
Your scope for what you can do a special feature on is quite limited by that. And I didn't actually double check this, but I'm going to assume this film does have a booklet. I'm just going to go back and double check all the rest of them do. Yes, that
It does. Yeah.
does. And that one does. Yeah, so they all come with a limited edition booklet, as is expected now at Radiance Films. You always get a booklet with some really intriguing context setting essays. Um, so yeah, those are the February releases. Like always, Radiance are doing a discount where if you put all of these in your basket, you get 10% off at the checkout. You need to do that before the next announcements. So the next announcements are going to be the 4th of December. So if you pre-order these films before then, you will get 10% off, which is always helpful. If you're someone like me, especially who just buys everything, you know, I know that I'm the outlier, and I know not everybody buys everything unless they have, the bundle, the annual kind of bundle. Um,
Yeah.
but I do for my sins buy everything, so it's helpful
It
for
makes
people like
sense. You're
me.
running, you're producing a Radiance podcast, so
See,
it would be silly if you didn't buy everything, to be honest.
See, I like to make this joke with my wife because it's funnier when I make it with her because it's money. But a lot of people have asked me and say, now that you're doing this podcast, are you gonna be having to buy everything? And
Mm.
I said, no, 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 you don't understand. I'm doing the podcast because I already buy everything and I need to justify it.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to have a reason for me to keep buying everything, but also watch everything as it comes in.
Yeah,
Because for a long time it was just going straight on the shelf and wasn't getting opened. So this keeps me honest. This keeps me on top of actually watching the things I buy, which is the biggest sin of any physical media collector, is that they buy faster than they can watch.
mm.
So this keeps me honest. This keeps me up to date with the things that I'm buying, because I pretty much only buy Radiance these days, apart from the odd thing here and there. So this does keep me honest with my purchasing habits.
I commend you for that.
It's a tough life being a physical media collector. It is a
Oh,
tough
for
gig.
sure. It is, especially when you're interested in many different labels and,
Oh,
the
100%.
so it's tough, but it's a wealth of things to choose from, no doubt. Yeah.
Absolutely. Cool. So, like I said, those are the February stuff. As I said at the start of the episode, I will be doing, hopefully, fingers crossed, doing an episode on the October releases in a couple of weeks. And then I'll be doing the December announcements when they come out. So there probably won't be another Vault episode before the next one because obviously we're going to do a Vault now. We're going to go into the Vault and we're going to talk about Elegant Beast. But yeah, just to let listeners know, our episode structure is going to be a little bit weird for the next couple of episodes just because I couldn't, like, even if I had all the October titles, I wouldn't be able to cover all of them and do an announcement reaction. So I was always going to be split anyway. Um, I was hoping to have all the titles by now at least. But yeah, there probably won't be another Vault episode because this is going to be the Vault episode we're going to cover in this month. So be that being said, let's get into things here. So, Sam, you chose for me because I essentially did ask you what the hell do you want to talk about. So you chose for me a film called Elegant Beast, which came out quite a while ago. I can't remember exactly when it was released, but it's been a while because it's like it was in a really awkward place on my shelf for me to get it down to watch it. So I've definitely had it for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and it is from 1962 and it's made by a filmmaker called Yuzo Kawashima. And just gonna read the blurb that's on the little slip that comes with every Radiance film to get around the age rating restrictions. So the Midday family hide behind their modest facade. One by one, those affected by their schemes show up at their door, but each of these visitors has their own duplicitous agendas. I feel like that's a bit vague. I'm gonna try and give a better, maybe kind of more of a layman's description of this film. So basically, the film opens up with a parent, a set of parents, a mother and a father. And the boss of their son shows up and accosts them because their son has apparently stolen a bunch of money from the company and now he's gone missing. They don't know where he is. He doesn't know where he is. Seems like he's gone on the lam. Next thing, the son shows up, and it turns out that they know about it. And essentially, what happens over the course of 90 minutes is more and more people show up at the house. And as more people show up, you get more context for the schemes that the family have going behind everyone else's backs. And you kind of get more of the story handed to you by each additional character showing up. It's all set in their apartment, and in and around the actual apartment, you see steps going up to the apartment as far out of the places we get. So it is very much in the style of like an adapted theater play,
Hmm.
because it
It
could all.
is.
Oh, it is perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for that context. That
There
makes
you go.
sense. That makes sense. But it is in that style. It's very one room, people talking for the whole film. But it's so interesting that because the characters are so well layered and they get up to so many, they have just so many intriguing schemes going on. Um, the biggest thing that jumped out to me with this film, apart from the actual film itself, was that it was written by Kaneto Shindo,
Yeah.
who, this is not the kind of film I would associate with him because I know him for his horror.
Hmm.
That's what I know him for. Onibaba and Kuroneko, the two horror films that he directed.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of know him for. So having this kind of film that's very dialogue heavy, that's essentially like a social satire, I guess, be the kind of best genre to try and put it into. Was a stylistic turn that I wasn't expecting, and I was very, and but like I was happy to have watched it and everything. I thought it was very very interesting. Um, so yeah, before I kind of go into my thoughts on this, Sam, tell me what you think about it, why you like this one so much, why you chose it.
I am a big fan of like satire. As you said, it is a satirical um film about the moral decay of a cross section of Japanese people in post-war Japan. So obviously the war they lost, poverty was rife across the country, and it took a lot of hard work to for the Japanese people to rebuild themselves. And unfortunately, a lot of people got left behind when prosperity began to you know, be afforded some people, and the country rebuilt itself. And this family are just happen to have been the unfortunate ones, which leads them into this situation where they are essentially con men. They, they're swindling people, and embezzling money, and just ripping people off. As the patriarch of the family says at some point, quite early in the film, that he will never go back to being poor again, no matter what the cost. Like, he's willing to do anything to prevent himself being in that dire situation again. And I just found it so engrossing for a film, as you said, that is all shot in pretty much one location. You get some scenes that are shot like outside the apartment, like on the staircase and stuff like that. And there is like one dream sequence or fantasy sequence, I'm not exactly sure, that's in the film. But other than that, like the 90 minutes or so of the film is one location, and it's so well, that location is so well used. Like I can't remember who is the director of photography on this one, but their use of the space is just genius in my opinion, because as you mentioned, there are so many people just constantly turning up to this apartment who are being swindled or whatever, and they're trying to like talk to certain members of the family, and there's always someone off screen, like you can see them, but they're just like in the corner of a frame because they're like eavesdropping or hiding from a certain individual. And just some of the interesting like low camera angles, and just like using the backdrop outside of the apartment of the skyline, where like you can see buildings like skyscrapers sort of things are being built in the background. So it's telling that sort of giving that context of this is like post-war, everything's being built up and the country sort of finding its feet again. But with that, the identity of a lot of the Japanese people was not lost, but that some people didn't know who they were, because they were so poor and couldn't afford to have an identity, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I like the performances, the tension, and when like some people turn up, and the dialogue is like is biting satire. It's I wouldn't say it's like a hilarious film by any stretch of the imagination, but it was very humorous and witty and very clever in its dialogue, and the screenplay is just very, very good, and I was thoroughly impressed with it. So I wanted to bring it up because I don't see many people talking about this one. I'm a huge fan of Japanese cinema, so I knew the screenplay and the of Kaneto Shindo, but I didn't know the director Yuzo Kawashima. Although he has directed another film. I never remember the name of it now. What's it called? Forgive me. Do, do, do. Sun in the Last Days of the Shogunate, which I don't know if you're familiar with that one. It's got many names. It's called like a Sun Tribe myth from the Bakumatsu era. And this has another name, I think, but this was like back in like the early 2000s. This was ranked but like the number 3 greatest Japanese film of all time by Japanese filmmakers and critics. Oh. So it's like a really esteemed film amongst Japanese culture, but like it was released by another label, but it's long out of print and goes for silly money on the secondary market. So I'm hoping that because Radiance have put this out, they might put out another Kawashima film, and hopefully it's that one, because this one has got such a reputation for being an incredible masterpiece, but it seems like you can't actually watch it anywhere as far as I can tell. But yeah, that's my ramblings on this film. What were your
Yeah, just on this one, just before we move back to the other one, I see that it was also co-written by Shohei Imamura.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're all working in. Yeah, so I think he was Kawashima sort of was Imamura's mentor. Okay. And I'm a huge Imamura fan as well. He's another master of Japanese cinema. So, What were your thoughts on it? Because I've watched this twice now. Because I watched it maybe 6 months ago for the first time, and then I was like, I'll just freshen myself up on it for this podcast, and I liked it just as much on the second viewing. It does have rewatchability, which I was quite pleased about. So
I'm not surprised by that because I agree pretty much with everything you said. You know, the screenplay is very intelligent. It's very, like you said, it's not laugh out loud funny, but you're at the whole way you're kind of thinking these conniving bastards.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you
yeah.
they're kind of lovable assholes, you know, that kind of way.
Hmm.
Like they're not good people, but you know that circumstances kind of pushed them to this in a way. So it's not that they're necessarily evil or anything, but they're certainly just self-absorbed to the point where they don't really care who they hurt. And the way they kind of talk about people is just, like I said, it's funny in a way that you're just thinking these bastards.
Yeah.
Funny in that sense. But the one thing that I love that you mentioned is the set and the set design, the production design, and the thought that went into building the apartment. Because I have no doubt this is a set; it's not a real apartment or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, like I would love, if I would have loved as part of like a special feature or in the booklet or something. There was like I could look at the schematics of this apartment to see how it's all laid out because it seems to like have like a big central island and all the rooms kind of loop around it. So characters kind of walk in the front door and then they go into the kind of living roomy area and then into the dining area and then they can come back down a hallway towards where the bathroom is, back towards the kitchen, and they can go on this kind of weird loop. And like you said, there's areas for those to eavesdrop. You can hide, at one side of this island and kind of listen to what's happening at the other side, or you see characters in the bathroom and they're kind of peering out the little weird little bathroom window that, like, why would you even have a little window
Yeah.
in your bathroom door? I know it was frosted, but still it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's so much cool little stuff with the just with the set and how they filmed it is really cool. The use of blocking and stuff is just it's really
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
filmmaking. Um, and a lot of the angles and stuff used, it's very Otsu like, but the cuts are quite quick. So it's kind of like if Otsu had a cup of coffee. Um,
That's a fantastic analogy. Yeah, I think that's perfect. Yeah, it's or maybe back in the day if Otsu like took speed or something. I don't know.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
He had a few speed balls or whatever.
he's yeah. That's a fantastic way of putting it. Yeah. So if you like the stylings of an Ozu film with the low to the floor camera angles and stuff, but with not so much long takes. It's just quick, choppy, snappy dialogue between characters and stuff. Then you sort of getting the best of both worlds in that respect. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great tagline for the film. If Ozu took speed or was on really high caffeine content coffee.
Yeah. If he like drunk a few cans of Monster before getting behind the camera, this is the film he'd make. Um, I suppose thinking or speaking of films that are perhaps somewhat similar, the whole way through the film, though, I was thinking of another film, a more recent film, and not a Japanese one. It's a Korean one, in Parasite.
Hmm.
That was the film that kind of came to me the most as I was watching this. I kept thinking, this is like this is so much like Parasite. Just the way the family dynamic is where they all have their roles in the swindling that they do, and they all have their own
Hmm.
little hustles that they're doing. It reminded me so a lot of the family dynamic from Parasite. Um, Obviously stylistically very different, but if you're a fan of that dynamic of a very different type of crime family, I feel like when you say crime family, you think of like The Sopranos or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is a very different type of crime. This is very much, a blue collar crime family.
Hmm.
Um, and if you liked that part of Parasite and you hadn't seen this film, I would really recommend it. Obviously, I wouldn't expect as much bombastic scenes as there are in Parasite. But yeah, this is another film that really kind of showcases what a true kind of on the ground crime family looks like. And all the different roles that they play. Um, and the way that the dad in this film, he runs the show, he pulls all the strings, he makes all the decisions, but he's so unassuming.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have the big boss energy, but he is the boss. He's the one telling his kids what to do and everything like that, and making the decisions on what to do with the money that's being swindled. And apparently they're terrible decisions because he keeps losing the money. So he's obviously not the sharpest tool in the shed. And he probably maybe shouldn't be making the decisions, but he is. Um, and yeah, just that dynamic is just so interesting to watch. It really keeps you engaged, and it really comes down. I think the strength in this film, like I said, the direction is good and stuff, but I think the strength of this film really is built on the screenplay.
Yeah.
It's an incredible script, and the characters are all so well defined and fleshed out. And characters that come into the film take turns you wouldn't expect. The kind of character that, without getting into spoilers, but the character that ends up being also connected with the crimes, so, the girlfriend of the son. You expect her to, when she comes into the film, just to be a very kind of sweet, straight-laced girl that's gotten herself involved in this criminal. But then it turns out to just be, a little bit different. And I don't want to get into spoilers, obviously, with this stuff, because I want people to be able to go in blind.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, just the way different characters turn and motives that different characters have, is interesting as well. Um, so yeah, I think like ultimately the biggest strength this film has is in its script. It keeps you engaged throughout. The characters are incredibly well written. The plot itself, the way it unfolds over the course of, I think it's like over like 24 hours or whatever. It doesn't take place over several days as
Yeah.
far as I can tell.
No.
So the way the whole story kind of unfolds and the different pieces start being kind of fed to you, the different pieces of information that you need to know start getting fed to you is it's just incredibly interesting and really engaging, and just a really enjoyable way to spend 90 odd minutes.
Yep. I could echo everything you said. With the Parasite thing, um, comparison that you made, I made the same one as I said at the top of the show. I'm like a huge double feature person, so my brain automatically thinks about like how other films influence other films because I always feel like in the grand scheme of things, like every film is in conversation with every other film that's been made. Like even when it's not like directly influenced, like everything is in has something to say about something else. And Parasite, I got to imagine Bong Joon-ho would have seen this because the theming is so on point. As you said, the style and the form of the films are completely different, and the family dynamic is different in the fact that they're not infiltrating, they're just filtering or ciphering off money, into their own home. And obviously, the one location and stuff feels more theatrical than cinematic, although it's still cinematic because as I said, the camera usage and the blocking and everything just makes everything so unique and fresh and never stale. Because I did think like during my first viewing of this, like you get half an hour in, you're like, oh, we're still in the same location. But then I found myself thinking, well, I'm not bored of this location yet. Are we gonna move away from this location? And you get an hour through the film, and you're like, I don't think this film is moving from this location, but I don't. It doesn't need to because the script is so well written. Sort of like maybe the film that's coming out in February that we talked about. That's one location. What happened was, that seems to
Yeah.
be, it could be something like that. It's just two people in an apartment having conversations with each other. So, if it's done perfectly or if it's done really interestingly and the script is good enough, then it can really capture your attention and become quite cinematic if, things are done in a particular way that make it not just a recording of a stage play. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. I wish I could see more of this director's work, but not a lot of it is available to my knowledge. So maybe Radiance will do more. I know this limited edition one's been out for a while and it's still in stock. So I don't know what that means about how well it's sold, but um, the limited edition is still available. So hopefully this conversation might at least entice a couple of people to maybe take a punt on it, because if you like Parasite, which I've not met a single person or spoken to anyone who does not at least like that film a little bit, then you're probably going to enjoy Elegant Beast. It's very much in the vein of that one. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I went onto the Radiance page. It was actually released nearly a year ago. It's been out since December of last year.
Okay.
So it's been out for nearly a year. In fact, that it hasn't sold out, like you said. Maybe not a lot of people are picking up. Maybe it's just because a lot of people don't know much about the director, or
Yeah.
maybe something in the artwork, maybe because I have to say I'm not a big orange guy. So
Hmm.
the artwork wasn't super enticing to me. Now, obviously, it doesn't matter because I buy everything anyway because I'm a sucker. But if you were if you're one of these guys, you're one of these people who buys or gets at least gets enticed by a nice cover, and if you're not into orange, then maybe you'd be like, meh, I don't know about that one.
Oh, I can, no,
Um,
I can see that. Like sometimes, art is the first thing you see on these releases when they pop up on the website or wherever you're purchasing them. So if you look at the art and that doesn't strike you, that can sometimes deter people from like reading the synopsis.
mhm.
So the art is important. Um, so, but yeah, I don't mind it. It's not my favorite like design per se, but I'm a big fan of these OB strips though on these releases. I do
Oh
like
yeah.
them. They're nice. They're nice touches because I collect vinyl records as well. So I do have a bunch of um, records with those in. So I was pleased to see them. Although for years I called them OBI strips. It's because I never heard anyone talk about them in real life or on anything. So I just called them OBI. I don't know why. And then I was corrected not that long ago that it's OB strip, and I felt stupid that I'd been calling them OBI for so long.
Well, to be
Um,
fair, the OBI is capitalized, so I can understand why someone would call it
Yeah, yeah.
OBI
Because I
strip.
think
Because
obi means belt in Japanese, I believe.
oh,
So,
okay, I didn't know
so
the I didn't know this the history behind it, or the meaning
yeah,
behind it.
so they I don't know if it's originally, but they were on a lot of like Asian vinyl releases of records.
Okay,
So, yeah, like Japanese or like anywhere from like East Asia, they would commonly have these sorts of strips on the vinyl records. And it just stems from that. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I could be making a fool of myself, and someone will message in and say, "Your guest Sam was an absolute idiot. That's not what it is." But I'm pretty sure obi means something like belt in Japanese, which is why it you know goes round the release like
I
sort of
always
like a belt.
just I always just think of Obi-Wan Kenobi, to be honest, but that's just me. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. A broad sash tied in a large flat bow at the back, so basically a belt. So it's a
Right, there you
sash, but
go.
it's
Yeah,
basically a belt. So there you go.
there you go.
Same
There you
same
go.
function.
Awesome.
And just to end things, then, just in, if you were to pick up this release, it does have some special features. Has an interview with a critic, an appreciation by filmmaker Toshiaki Toyoda, and a visual essay by Tom Mess, who is on a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of Radiant stuff. So if you're, collecting Radiant stuff and looking at the special features, you will know exactly who Tom Mess is. So he also has a visual essay there. So it's a pretty decent collection of special features with it as well. And as Sam mentioned, the limited edition is still available on the Radiance website. So if you're one of these people who, in a year's time, you're going to be crying because you can't buy the limited edition and you don't want the standard because it's ugly, then this is your chance. Jump on it while you can. It's
Well,
getting
you also
near.
get the book as well. You don't get the book in the standard editions,
Do
so
you not see?
it's.
I don't buy standard editions,
Oh,
so I wouldn't
actually,
know.
that I might be wrong. I
I have
don't
no
have any
idea.
standard editions myself because I usually buy all the ones I want as soon as they're announced.
Well, let
So,
me find out. If I
um,
click on a standard edition on the
yeah, you
Radiance
find out.
website, it will
You
tell
can
me.
inform me now because I've never had to buy one
Yeah,
before, so I don't.
there's no mention of a booklet, so I would guess that
Yeah,
you're
so
correct in that, which tracks. I think that most Blu-ray companies these days,
yeah.
you won't get the booklet if you buy like a standard edition down the line. I think that's pretty par for the course. Um, I don't think that's just a Radiance thing.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, look, Sam, it's been absolutely great having you on, getting your insight on everything that we talked about today. As I said, I will have all of Sam's links in the description below, so feel free to give him a follow on socials, check out his content. In terms of when I'll be back, like I said, I don't know. It's all going to be about when I get my October releases and when I get to watch them. I'm hoping to have something out maybe kind of mid to, maybe like the second last week of this month or something. I'm hoping it's all going to depend on scheduling with my special guest that I've lined up as well. If you follow on socials, I'll keep people up to date. Once I kind of know when I'm going to be recording, I'll put out a teaser for when the episode's coming out. So if you follow on Twitter or on Instagram now as well, so those descriptions or those links will be in the description also. So feel free to give a follow there. I will definitely be back in the kind of end of the first week of December for the next set of announcements. So I will definitely see you then. Hopefully I'll see you in between for the October releases. For now, Sam, thank you again, and we're going to finish up. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.